If they can't make a small commitment to get married, which is only paperwork, that you could dissolve later if you want to, then don't make a commitment to have kids with people. Because one of these things you can walk away from, and it's not the kid. Well, apparently it is the kid, because she just gave him up to CPS, and the guy doesn't want to take care of his kids. She said he won't even watch them. But you're not supposed to be able to give up your kids.
You can't say that.
Is he allowed to say that?
Say it louder.
So this post on X by TL Young Boss says she gave up her 5 kids to social services, CPS, because her baby daddies refused to help her.
Yeah.
What age are you?
I'm 27. Prior to me giving them up, I already had that thought in my head a year prior. I didn't have nobody to watch the kids. So when I reached out to the girl's dad, now mind you, I ain't thought about laying with this man. My daughter's about to be 3, about to be 3 in November. I don't want this man. So I call him, I'm like, can you help me? Can you watch the girls or whatever? He's like, oh, well, don't you got me on child support? No, yes, I do have him on, excuse me, I have hiccups. So, chronic hiccups is what I mean. But anyway, so when I put him on child support a year after my daughters was born, he didn't start paying until this year. So, and he was only required to pay $196 a month for both my daughters. And he's like, that's taking all my money. And then he's like, well, you're not getting anything outside of that. And it's like, he's like, if you take me off of child support, I could do more for them. And I'm like, nigga, I know for a fact that's a lie, because the whole year before I put you on child support, you didn't, no diapers, no wipes, no, not a damn thing. Even if you didn't provide any of that shit, you didn't even pick them up so I could go to work and, get all that shit. I could do it by my damn self if you watch them, So it was like, so I know you're lying and shit like that. But anyway, he proceeds to tell me shit that don't matter, is that he got another girl and she's pregnant. They about to have another baby. And it was just like, okay, so he's pretty much telling me that he's not going to, help me with my daughters because he's moved on. And I'm like, you can move on. That's fine. I don't want to be with you, but you still have daughters,
First things first, giving up your kids to foster care has got to be difficult. I know people are going to rip her for having 5 kids out of wedlock and all of these things, and rightfully so. You need to choose who it is you're going to have kids with very selectively. You don't just bring kids into the world and be like, oh, well, we're going to figure it out later. No, you need to be married. You need to have an established family and somewhere to raise those kids. I'm not saying everybody needs to buy a house or anything like that, but stop bringing kids into the world out of wedlock, breaking up with the person, not having good relationships with the people immediately after you guys end up fucking, and then the kids have to grow up in a 1-parent household. I'm going to give her just a little bit of saving grace, because even though she had 5 kids, she did explain in the full interview that her first child's father was killed, right? There's nothing that she can do about that. I don't know the situation around him getting killed or whatever, so I'm not going to speak on that. I'm going to give her grace on that point. But continuing to have 5 kids, you make bad decisions, and the guys that you lay with also make bad decisions. And because I want people to make better decisions, I'm going to tell you, stop having kids if you're not married. This is not me trying to be an elitist because I'm married or anything like that. This is saying that you're creating broken homes. You're creating broken homes, and you're putting your kids at a statistical disadvantage in all the possible categories. They're more likely to go to prison. They're more likely to drop out of school. They're more likely to have emotional damage. And this is statistics. This is not how I feel about it. This is not me bashing you. This is what the numbers say. I want to read some of the comments and the responses that people had to this post. Miss Goddess 888 says, why y'all keep having kids after the first one? I'm not in agreement with Miss Goddess in specific to this situation. In most cases, I have to tend to agree. But this lady, she lost her first child's father. So she doesn't need to go her whole life and never be in another situation. I think that would be unreasonable. That would be unfair. But in most cases, we got to stop this thing where people just have so many babies back to back to back to back, just jumping from person to person, guys and girls. I'm not just talking to this lady. I'm talking to you dudes that are bums that leave your kids out in the world and split homes because you're going and not being selective with who it is that you're having kids with and making a commitment to that person and you guys sticking it out together. I'm talking to you dudes too. Sue says she did the right thing. Some mothers deleting their kids. In the full interview, in the full interview, towards the end, she did kind of talk about her calling the police and trying to give up her kids, and they were telling her, unless the kids are in imminent danger, we're not taking them. And she said she didn't want to get to that point, even though she was frustrated. She had a lot going on. She didn't want to get to that point. So she found a way to, separate herself from the kids through CPS. I'm glad that it didn't come to that the kids didn't end up in a very unfortunate situation, because these types of things do happen. People get so frustrated and are overburdened with the fact that they have all of these kids and they can't take care of them. And that stuff does happen. So in this case, thankfully, it didn't happen. I'm agreeing with you, Suze. Carmen says, I have 9 kids and this thought never came across my mind. Even when my oldest kid's father died, I couldn't imagine not having my kids. Even when I couldn't afford childcare, when their father got sick, I hustled to provide for mine and cried when they were asleep. I gotta ask, Suze, where were those 9 kids when you were at work then if you couldn't afford childcare? Because I know you weren't just leaving them at home. It sounds like you had some support. This girl doesn't seem to have had any support from her parents, from the baby dads, and that is on her. She's a grown person that's responsible for taking care of her business, and the men are responsible for taking care of their business. But everybody's situation isn't the same. Everybody doesn't have a support system, which is why you need to be selective in the actions that you take in your life. The people that you're having kids with, the things that you're doing, you have to be intentional. Life is not a game. How you avoid this is marrying before you carry, on the men's side and the women's side. The guy said, I can't pay $197 a month in child support for 2 kids. He's already getting off easy. You need to get off your ass, and you need to work, and you need to provide for the kids that you help bring into this world, regardless of the fact if you wanted them or didn't want them. I don't know. I think in the full interview, she said she was going to have an abortion. So I don't know if the guy wanted to have the kids or didn't want to have them, whatever the situation is. But she said the one baby dad couldn't afford $197 a month for his 2 daughters. You need to get off your ass and stop being a loser. People do end up in situations where it's a financial struggle for them. And I'm not bashing them for that. I'm not bashing people for not being able to afford things. It's expensive. Life is very expensive. But you're making bad decisions to keep having babies on the woman's side and the man's side that you cannot provide for. Stop doing that. All because you want to have a little bit of pleasure, and then you're putting the kid's life in turmoil. Not just the fact that you're not going to be in their life as a father. This lady is not going to be in their life as a mother because she keeps bringing kids into the world and she can't provide for them. The people that she had sex with are not helping provide for them. And now she has to give them up to the state. Hopefully they end up together in a house where they get all the love and support that they need, because it seems like the lady, she loved her kids, but she can't take care of them. So part of me feels like she did the right thing in a way by giving her kids up, because instead of raising them in poverty and having them struggle throughout their entire childhood, she said, let me give you up, and then maybe down the line I can get you back. And that was part of the full clip. She said she was in school and she's trying to get her life together, things like that. And I'll link that down in the show notes so you can go over to Real Life Street Stars and watch the entire interview. We can avoid a portion of this. You can't control everything that's going on in your life, right? Some things are going to happen that are outside of your control, and they're going to be shitty. That's the way that life is. Sometimes you get dealt a shitty hand, regardless of how good your intentions are. But there are choices that we can do, that we can make to mitigate the hardships, some of them, in our life. And one of those is stop having kids out of wedlock with people that don't want to commit to you. If they don't want to commit to you in marriage, why would they commit to you in having a kid, which is a far greater deal than going down to the courthouse and signing paperwork? I said that in this channel before, and I'm going to say it again. If they can't make a small commitment to get married, which is only paperwork that you could dissolve later if you want to, then don't make a commitment to have kids with people, because one of these things you can walk away from, and it's not the kid. Well, apparently it is the kid, because she just gave him up to CPS and the guy doesn't want to take care of his kids. She said he won't even watch him. But you're not supposed to be able to give up your kids. Some people don't have the mental capacity to be parents, so they shouldn't be parents. But we can't stop people from doing things that they want to do. So while I don't think you should have kids out of wedlock and put them in these types of situations, it's not up to me. What we can do is educate people, give them information, and hope that they make better decisions. As you guys can see, I feel strongly about this. I did spend a little bit of time in foster care when I was a kid, not because my parents wanted to give me up. My situation was entirely different, and maybe one day I'll get into it. If you like the video, subscribe to me back here for the next conversation. If you have thoughts on the Child Care Protective Services system, if you have thoughts on this lady giving up her kids, if you have thoughts on the dad not being a father, not stepping up, not wanting to pay child support, not wanting to take his kids, let the world know. This is a place for discourse. Till next time. Peace.